Welcome back to another episode of The Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. And I'm finally getting back into the swing of doing that introduction. It's been a while. Apologies, this one was supposed to come out this morning. A few technicals, a few other bits and pieces happened, prevented me from doing it. So the other one that I said was going to come out this evening, when you're now seeing this, will actually come out in the morning. It's been recorded, it's been edited. I think it's in the process of being uploaded as you're seeing this right now. So yeah, that will come out morning, and then in the late afternoon / early evening we will get Base's picks coming out a day early. And then maybe we might even, and then we got a stream. I was about to say we might do a stream on Friday, but we've got a stream Friday night. We've also got a stream Saturday evening, but we got things to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it. So off the back of his devastating knockout victory on Friday night, Keyshawn Davis, we all saw he called out Gervonta Davis. It's gonna sound weird saying that, but yeah, called him out. Basically was like, knock knock, he's about that action, he wants that work, he wants to get that done. Now look, we all kind of know chances are that ain't really gonna happen. It then turns out that Tank Davis actually turned off his social media, I guess from the amount of people that were tagging him and atting him, and yo, I mean, Keyshawn called you out, what are you gonna do? You gonna fight him? Like, what's going on? What's good? Well, later on that weekend, I think it might have been Sunday. If it wasn't Sunday, then it was Monday just gone. Basically, Keyshawn was on a live stream, basically talking to the people, and you know, essentially he called Tank a fraud. He called him a con man. He said like he's been conning the public, basically saying that all he'd be doing, his fights look good, but that's because he's been fighting people that are there to make him look good. He hasn't been testing himself, or he's been bringing people up from 130, or he's been putting mad weight clauses and stipulations on people, like always just trying to get an advantage. And it's funny that now you've actually got boxers that are calling it out, because you know, the people like me and others, you know, Ring IQ and Beats and several other people have always been on that tip of, well, yo, where is Tank really? Like, what is his skills actually saying? Because as good as people think he is, he ain't fought nobody from any weight class he's actually been in, from 130 to 135 to 140. He's never fought the fights in that weight class to prove that he is like the best, or he is that guy. Now, I think if I'm correct, he's fought 13 former world champions. I could be wrong on that number, but it's something like that. Let's say between 7 and 13, right? Just as for the purpose of what I'm about to say. But there's not one person in that run, especially of the last 4 or 5 years, that you really remember and say, that's your defining victory. That's the one. It's crazy when people look at the resume and still think that Jose Pedraza is his best win at 130 pounds. And that fight happened, I think, what was it, 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. So imagine, he fought Hector Luis Garcia, who was a champion at 130. He fought Leo Santa Cruz, who at the time was a champion at 126, who he brought up to 130 to fight at the time. I mean, Frank Martin was never a champion. Ryan Garcia was never a champion. What's his name? Cruz. He became a champion afterwards of sorts, but he, you know, won the belt from probably the weakest of all champions that was ever created in Rolly Romero. I guess you could say, oh, he fought Rolly Romero, who became a champion as well. So there are some victories that on paper you look at them and you say they aged well, but the people themselves weren't all that. But it's crazy, of all of these former world champions that he's beaten, and none of them end up being the quote unquote best win, or none of them actually make the resume look that much better. So it was good to see Keyshawn Davis actually really bring that to the forefront and say, look, I'm about the action. This guy don't want to fight me, but you know, he's out here just basically nicking a living. I know that Shakur has been saying, look, I have to be the humble one. I gotta be respectful when he's the A side, so I gotta wait for the call for when he says. But if I was Shakur, I'd be on a little more smoke than that. Like, you don't want to let Keyshawn get to tank before you. Like at 11-0, you can't let your guy go and clean up that work that you want, especially when you want to be unified. You want to be the money guy of the division. Let Keyshawn go get that Berincek belt for the WBO. You want to be sweeping up the others until you eventually move up to 140, or he moves up to 140. Chances are he'll probably move up to 140 before you, because he's the younger guy. Clearly he's got more room to grow. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to put that one out there. It's good that finally someone outside of, you know, the media or the YouTube space is calling out what the rest of us have been seeing for years. And I guess he ain't got to worry about getting no PBC accreditations or Tank Davis interviews. Therefore, you know, he's got every reason to call it out. But yeah, I thought I wanted to put that one out there. I enjoyed that little live that he did. Right, so I haven't seen the full interview, but I know Lawrence Okoli did the interview the other day. I think it might have been with Seconds Out of Boxing Social. And he's saying that, look, if Daniel Dubois needs an opponent for February, like, I'll put my name in the hat. And I've been thinking about it. I actually don't mind that. Now, I know that on the last video, I said that I think there's a very good chance that Ajit Caballero could end up being the voluntary opponent for that fight, because he's probably just about well known enough by the people based on Day of Reckoning and Knockout Chaos. I think that was the other one he was on, whereby obviously he got his 2 knockout victories against, you know, up and coming, like, quote unquote boogeymen of the divisions. Plus he's a guy that Tyson Fury was supposed to face several years ago during the lockdown period. So he could, you know, he's someone that you can kind of bring that name in, whether you do it in Riyadh or you do it over here. Probably it might be better off doing sort of here at like the O2, you know, as his you know, I don't want to call it a homecoming, because technically Wembley is his home, same as it's Joshua's, but it would be like his first. Joshua, that defense was like a validation for having the title. This would be like your first title defense. Like, you don't have a mandatory, so it's your first voluntary, it's your first time to just show what you're about. And I would have said that would have been the move to make. But if Lawrence Okoli says he wants it, they're the same height, roughly. Lawrence might be a slightly bit taller. I think he's 6'5" and Daniel's like 6'4.5", or maybe just a smidge of 6'5" as well. You know, he's coming up into the weight class. I mean, people may, you know, say, oh, look, it's Okoli and it's just going to be bare arms all over the place and bare loads of holding and grabbing, etc. But I don't think that would be the case in that fight. Number one, I don't think Daniel is really going to be, you know, sort of, you know, enclosed and gripped up and you know, entangled like that. And it's just going to be one of those fun fights. If he actually wants that fight, I like the fight. He may not necessarily sell the fight, because neither guy are the most charismatic. Although, you know, Okoli has got there's a bit of a coolness factor to what he says certain times when he's in the mode. And obviously Daniel is now good for a one-liner here or there. So while it wouldn't be the most entertaining press conference, or, you know, face off, gloves are off, or whatever they're going to call it, face to face, like, the fight itself could still be billed, and enough of the public will know Lawrence Okoli that it could actually sell out a venue over here. I don't know if it would be on the cards necessarily for a Saudi, if it was an event based in Saudi, but it's an interesting proposition. And You know, I know a lot of people are talking, oh, why does he get to be number 5 in the heavyweight rankings for the WBC? But, you know, he's just obviously playing the game. He had the Bridgerweight title. You win that title, you get elevated to the next, you know, to the next division inside the top 10. And I guess they felt he was worthy of that 5th ranking, you know, being a reigning champion moving up. So I don't hate it. And the more I think about that fight now, I would still prefer the Caballero fight, feeling that he's done more in the heavyweight division to deserve it. But as a voluntary defense, you could do a lot worse than Lawrence Okolie. And there's enough, you know, he's got enough punching power, he's got enough movement and quickness from, you know, boiling down into that cruiserweight division. It could be an interesting fight. So yeah, like if that fight is on the table, I can't lie, I'm putting my hand up saying I'm happy to accept that one. Now we just got to wait to see what they do and what they finally decide to let go of. But otherwise, it's a good shot. A shout out to October Red for getting Billy Nelson on a live. I think it was on Monday that they spoke. And basically, you know, while obviously speaking about Martin Bakole and what he's doing and what his new plans are, she got Billy Nelson to confirm that Richard Riakporhe has now left Angel Fernandez as his trainer and will now be training with Billy Nelson and Martin Bakole. I'm assuming he's going to be relocating to Scotland for training camps now. Either that, or maybe he might be asking Billy he might be paying for him to come down London, or maybe one of the outside areas, Loughborough or Sheffield or Newcastle or something, and doing training camps there. It'll be an interesting setup. I mean, you know, I guess Richard has been very cultured recently with all the modeling and some of the different people that he meets and you know, the people he's having to interact with. So maybe Scotland won't be too much of a culture shock for him based on how things have been moving. But if he is up there, that would be interesting. I would actually be very interested to see the spars between him and Martin Bakole. Because, you know, I think he's moving to Bridgerweight and potentially he's going to be having a Bridgerweight fight in December. I don't know on what card. I don't know how it's going to shape out. But that's the rumors. But him and Martin Bakole's like sparring day in, day out would actually be a very, very interesting thing to watch. So yeah, look, I'm interested in seeing how that kind of plays out. Again, I know that from what I've heard, there's been other people that have basically been watching behind the scenes for stuff that, you know, people like October Red, maybe even myself, I've heard that certain things are being plagiarized by big members of the media that just have the eyes on them. And, you know, because we're like maybe the smaller channels, things ain't necessarily being filtered down, or at least being given the due credit. But I'm gonna say anyway, shout out to October Red for getting that scoop first before anyone else. So I'm sure most of you have seen by now, but Turki Al-Sheikh has actually purchased the Ring, the Ring magazine from Oscar De La Hoya. I believe from what Oscar said is he's actually purchased it for like $10 million or something like that. Now, funny enough, technically, if we're going on inflation from when Oscar purchased it, I think he's actually made a loss on that sale, because the magazine itself wasn't doing too well, to the point where they stopped doing the monthly publications, I think about 2 years ago, back in 2022. So you've got Turkey who's brought it back, and he's basically said that the monthly the monthly editions will be coming back, and they will be available in the US and the UK markets. There will be a bunch of independent writers on there. He said it will have no bearing or no connection itself to Riyadh season. But I would wonder how many of the quote unquote independent writers are gonna be pro Riyadh season in order to get the opportunity, because there's a lot of writers that I've seen that don't have kind words to say about either Riyadh or about maybe Saudi Arabia and their practices as a whole. And I wonder if those people may also be interviewed to apply. And if they're not, I mean, I wouldn't blame him. Like, why would you want to, they say, why would you want to work with people that you don't get on with? But that also being said, there's been many times in business and in life, some of the best work you've done has been with people that you can't stand. I know there's been times where back in the day, way back in the day, where I made songs with people that I ain't really feeling, but those songs ended up coming out better than other stuff. Maybe because it was competitive and I didn't want to get, I basically didn't want to be the one that looks weak in that particular collaboration. And sometimes in business as well, I've done projects and stuff with people that I don't particularly like or get on with, but they were some of the better work than maybe the people I did. So, in that sense, maybe it could work. But I would assume that anyone that he did bring onto it, independent or not, whether it has to be a glowing reference of Saudi or not, would probably still be someone that is, of a positive mindset towards Saudi and what they're trying to do in both sport and even just within the country, and all the changes that they're trying to make in terms of human rights and the image in general. But I mean, look, if you bring back the magazine, it very much looks like he's trying to do that. He's trying to consolidate a few of the sanctioning bodies as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they basically tried to make that Ring magazine belt just like the UFC one, where if you get the Ring magazine, no other belt means anything, and that's the only belt that people start fighting for. I mean, look, if they can do it, I'll be interested to see where it goes. The only thing that I would say is, if you're going to get rid of the belts as such, then there's got to be something that's put into place that means that boxers as a whole from every weight division have to be mandated to fight like 3 or 4 times a year. I know that's not an easy thing to do, but if you don't have 4 different sanctioning bodies, then you need to at least have a way for people to get their shots when they deserve it. It can't always be about just what the money says. It's like, if someone's put themselves into that position, they need to be able to know that once they're in that position, they can get that shot within a year of getting themselves into that ranking. And if all the rankings are governed by one person or one organization, then it just means that that champion has got to constantly be fighting number 1, 2 or 3, or going down the list until such a time as they lose, and then the next person goes, and then they've got to go down the list, and people are building up. If you've got that, proper like that Premier League table, you fight, you compete against whoever's on the list, and then you can keep your position, you can lose your position if you win, if you lose. And then even the win-loss record thing itself won't necessarily be that bad, but obviously the incentive will be to win more than to lose ultimately in life. But yeah, if you get rid of the other sanctioning bodies, and that is something you're going to have to look at, because you can't have your world champion fighting once every 12 to 18 months. The only way that can work is if you've basically got all of the competitors basically doing like tournament style things every year, or every sort of 12 to 15 months, and then they basically knock each other off until you get to like the final 2, and then they fight, and then the winner of that fight gets to take on the champion, and then the champion basically can just kind of sit, and they've only ever got a fight when they're defending their championship crown. You could potentially look at a format like that, but I don't know, would the champion want to be out of the ring for 12 to 15 months while that tournament's going ahead? I don't know, unless they, I guess, would have to take on voluntaries or something. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could kind of work that one out. I'd have to sort of think of a proper format of how it would go. But yeah, in general, I definitely feel like If you get rid of more sanctioning bodies or you devalue certain sanctioning bodies, then you have to up the activity of people. For instance, you look at Joseph Parker. The last time he fought was in March, whereas last year from January until March, that was like 5 fights in 14 months. Like, that's the kind of activity we need to stay on. And now he hasn't had a fight in coming up to 10 months or 9 to 10 months, all because of, you know, politics and stuff. That shouldn't be able to happen. So yeah, look, I guess we kind of wait and see on that. But back to the Ring Magazine acquisition. If he gets it back into where it needs to be and to where those rankings actually mean something, and their pound for pound list is proper and not just about some point scoring system or who people prefer, and you actually look at it from a perspective of who's on there based on the work that they've done, I respect it. But, you know, shout out to His Excellency. He's still making moves to try and make the sport better, and I've got to respect it. But ladies and gentlemen, right, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very much for watching this episode of The Hardcore Casual. Hope you've enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, smash that like button. Help me out with those metrics. It's always appreciated. But for right now, it's The Hardcore Casual out.